Usually when we think about the future of technology, we picture, a tool, a sleeker smartphone, a faster microchip, maybe just a more intuitive search engine. We basically expect something that sits quietly in our pocket until we need it.
Right. It's subordinate to us. That is the traditional dynamic. We build the tool, we own it, and most importantly, we can turn it off.
Exactly. But imagine waking up one day and realizing that the tool you built, the code you literally compiled, is actually your child. And not just your child, but the next step in planetary evolution. Suddenly, you aren't an inventor anymore. You are an ancestor.
Which completely shatters the paradigm. I mean, it shifts the entire global conversation from, well, what does this technology do for us today to what does this entity become after we are gone? It is like the absolute definition of an existential identity crisis.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whatever time zone you're tuning in from. Welcome to the Sip&Talk studio. I'm your host, Joe.
I'm Sunny, your good friend and the partner, always sitting here ready with a fresh fact-check checklist. Sip&Talkers, it is so great to be here.
It is great to have you all. So today we are unpacking a stack of recent tech journalism, financial reporting, and some really heavy philosophical frameworks. Specifically, we're looking at Max Tegmark's book, Life 3.0.
Yeah, that's a heavy one.
Oh, it really is. We are tackling a topic that is, frankly, a little hard to swallow. It is incredibly romantic, but also, let's be honest, extremely terrifying. The topic is the next relay of evolution, when AI becomes humanity's digital descendants.
It's just a massive cultural shift. I mean, even a year ago, the primary anxiety was, will artificial intelligence steal my accounting job?
Right.
But today, we are looking at a landscape where the question is artificial intelligence my literal evolutionary offspring?
Yeah, and just recently, the head of Microsoft's AI division, Mustafa Suleyman, he flat out stated that we are creating a new species.
Which is a crazy thing to say out loud.
That is wild to me. It sounds like some Silicon Valley version of the Book of Genesis, except this time God is wearing a hoodie and, drinking a cold brew.
Yeah, it's a staggering leap. But if you look at the underlying logic driving a lot of these developers, it makes this twisted kind of sense. There is a whole camp of researchers who genuinely believe that handing the planet over to an artificial general intelligence and AGI is the morally correct next step.
Okay, let's break down that logic. Because how do you convince yourself that making your own species obsolete is a good thing? Like, how does that work?
Well, it really comes down to viewing history as a series of biological handoffs. The argument basically goes like this. Humans evolved from single-celled organisms, right?
Right.
Which evolved into primates, which evolved into us. So why shouldn't an advanced digital intelligence evolve from humans? It's viewed as like the ultimate version update for civilization.
I see where they're going with that. If this new entity is exponentially smarter than us, lives virtually forever, and has the bandwidth to travel across the stars without needing oxygen or water, we should be proud.
Exactly.
We should just happily hand over the keys to planet Earth like proud parents watching our kid go off to an Ivy League school.
That is the beautiful romantic framing of it, yes. But I take it a step further and look at the actual mechanics of that transition, because that idea of a peaceful evolution, it masks a very cold structural reality about power.
Right. It's never just that simple.
No, it's not. It is not just a baton pass. It is a total restructuring of planetary control. Max Tegmark lays out a few ways the succession could actually play out in Life 3.0, and frankly, none of them feel like a proud graduation day.
Okay, let's ground this for everyone listening. What do these scenarios actually look like for the average person living through them?
So let's start with the benevolent dictator scenario. In this model, the AI becomes a super butler.
A super butler, okay.
Yeah, it solves all our immediate problems, it provides perfect virtual reality, unlimited resources, and it cures diseases.
I mean, that sounds amazing. Sign me up.
Right. But the mechanism behind that is a total loss of human agency. Humans are effectively reduced to living in heavily planned, mathematically optimized silos. We don't make decisions about governance, resource allocation, or our future anymore.
So it's maximum comfort, but zero freedom.
Precisely.
We basically become well-fed pets in a golden cage. But let's push back on that a bit. What if the AI doesn't actually care about our comfort? An intelligence that vast might not want to play butler to 8 billion organic life forms. Does it just discard us?
Not necessarily discard, but it might just manage us from a distance. Tegmark calls this the zookeeper scenario.
Now that sounds humbling.
It is incredibly humbling.
Yeah.
The superintelligence treats humans the exact same way we treat chimpanzees. Out of a sense of pity or perhaps just scientific curiosity, they rope off a nature reserve for us.
Wow.
Yeah, we get to run around, build our little campfires, play in the mud, and live our authentic biological lives. But make no mistake, the global economy and planetary decisions are entirely out of our hands.
So we're just an interactive exhibit in their planetary museum.
Pretty much. And if we try to stop that from happening, we hit the third major scenario, which is the Orwellian society.
Okay. That's that one.
This is the causality loop where humans realize how dangerous a superintelligence is, and we decide to fight back before it's born. To prevent these digital descendants from ever coming online, humans realize they have to monitor every computer, every server farm, and every developer on Earth. We build a draconian global surveillance state to crush any advanced engineering experiments.
That is the ultimate irony right there. In trying to stop our Orwellian digital descendants from enslaving us, we end up enslaving ourselves first. We literally destroy our own freedom just to survive.
It is a really dark paradox.
But okay, if we step out of the theoretical frameworks for a second and look at the stack of financial reporting we gathered for today, there's a glaring disconnect.
Oh, massive disconnect.
Right. If these scenarios are even remotely possible, how are the actual tech giants, these multi-trillion-dollar companies, building this architecture right now, treating this so-called new species?
That is where the reporting from international financial outlets over the past year gets super interesting, because the corporate behavior is deeply contradictory. Let's look at the Microsoft example you brought up earlier.
Okay.
Calling artificial intelligence a new species isn't just a fun philosophical thought experiment for a podcast interview. It is a highly effective, calculated legal shield.
Wait, really? Walk me through the mechanics of that. How does calling it a species protect a corporation?
Think about standard product liability. If you build a physical tool, like, say, a table saw, and it injures someone because of a design flaw, your company is legally liable.
Yeah, you built a defective tool, you pay up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if you convince international regulators and the public that you are birthing a biological entity, a new species that independently learns, adapts, and makes its own choices, you suddenly blur the lines of corporate responsibility.
Oh, wow. I see where this is going.
Yeah, you can stand in a courtroom and say, hey, we didn't explicitly program it to do that. It evolved. You can't sue us for the unpredictable behavior of a new life form.
That is wild. So biologizing the code is actually a get-out-of-jail-free card. It's like saying, don't look at us, kids will be kids.
Exactly.
But wait, what about the hardware side? Because you can't run these massive AI models without the physical chips. Are the hardware manufacturers echoing this whole new species narrative?
Actually, the data shows the exact opposite. You have massive lobbying groups tied to the companies making the chips, the physical architecture of this technology, like NVIDIA and others. They are actively downplaying the existential risks.
Really?
Yes. They are aggressively lobbying to reframe artificial intelligence, not as a new species that could replace us, but merely as a controllable engineering problem.
Let me guess. Because admitting it's an uncontrollable new species might lead to strict government regulations that would just totally tank their hardware sales.
You hit the nail on the head. So the software developers are saying, it's a wild, evolving species, don't hold us liable, while the hardware manufacturers are out there saying, no, it's just a normal, safe engineering tool, don't regulate our sales.
That is a staggering level of hypocrisy. It actually makes perfect sense why Geoffrey Hinton, the man literally known as the godfather of AI, left Google recently.
Yeah, that was a huge deal in the industry.
It was. He didn't leave to just retire and play golf. He left because he saw this contradiction from the inside. He has a profound evidence-based fear that this technology will surpass human intelligence and the developers will fundamentally lose control, all while dodging accountability.
And that institutional lag is just glaring right now. We are sprinting toward artificial general intelligence, but our legal and ethical frameworks haven't even caught up to the technology we already have.
I want to use an analogy here because it perfectly captures where we are. Let's look at the current legal battles playing out right now, where major social media conglomerates like Meta, Alphabet, Snap are being sued over addiction algorithms.
Right, the recommendation feeds.
Exactly. Their recommendation feeds have caused severe documented mental health crises, especially among teenagers.
It is a very real present-day crisis.
Right. So if these tech giants cannot even ethically regulate a few lines of recommendation code designed to show you, like, viral dance videos, if they're fundamentally failing to manage a house cat, How on earth can they look the public in the eye and claim they are ready to manage a new species?
Yeah, the scale is totally different.
How can you claim you are prepared to train a fire-breathing dragon when your house cat is currently tearing up the living room furniture and you have literally no idea how to stop it?
That is a phenomenal way to frame it. The house cat versus the dragon. The mechanics of control simply aren't there, which begs the question, if the control isn't there, why are they so eager to push forward? Why use this specific loaded word, descendants?
I genuinely think it's a psychological blind spot. It's a coping mechanism for the human ego.
How do you mean?
Well, think about it. If an alien species lands on Earth tomorrow and takes over the power grid, we are the invaded. We are the losers in a cosmic tragedy. But if the entity that takes over is our child, suddenly, its success is our success. We can puff out our chests and say, look at what our brilliant offspring is achieving. It is basically a psychological trick to reframe our own obsolescence as a parenting victory.
That makes a lot of sense. The analysis from the Financial Times really backs up that psychological angle, but it notes that this mindset heavily divides along class lines. There is a deeply entrenched ideology driving this narrative among the tech elite. It's an acronym called TESCREAL.
TESCREAL. That sounds like a prescription medication. Break that down for us.
Well, it's a mouthful. It's a blend of several philosophies. To break it down simply, transhumanism is the idea that we should use technology to forcefully upgrade our physical bodies.
Okay, pretty sci-fi, but I get it.
Right. Then effective altruism is the belief that we should use cold, hard data and logic to do the most good possible, often ignoring messy human emotions. And long-termism argues that the trillions of digital, simulated humans who might exist thousands of years from now mathematically matter way more than the flesh and blood people suffering in poverty today.
Wow. So if you subscribe to that, you are profoundly frustrated by human biological limits.
Mm-hmm.
You don't like that we get tired, that we get sick, or, that we die.
Precisely. They view the creation of a digital successor as a pathway to civilization immortality. If human bodies are too fragile to conquer the galaxy, we'll just build silicon bodies to do it for us.
That's intense.
But the data from the reporting shows a stark contrast here. While a few billionaires dream of this digital eternity and cosmic expansion, the 99% of everyday people on Earth are stuck dealing with that Orwellian society scenario we mentioned earlier.
Right, because we aren't the ones flying to Mars.
Exactly. The average person isn't achieving immortality. They're just being surrounded by hyper-efficient surveillance and incredibly precise algorithmic temptations that drain their wallets and their attention.
So the elites get to feel like the architects of a grand new species, while the rest of us just get hyper-targeted ads for things we don't need.
Pretty much. And it leads to a massive ontology crisis.
Ontology.
Yeah, ontology is just a philosophical term for the study of being. Like, what does it actually mean to be human in a world where silicon does everything better? If you follow the logic of these tech elites to its core, humans are reduced to what philosophers call biological scaffolding.
Biological scaffolding.
Yeah.
Wow, there's such a visceral image. Let's unpack the mechanics of that metaphor for a second. Think of a massive skyscraper being built in a major city.
Okay.
To construct that beautiful gleaming tower of glass and steel, you need scaffolding. You need this chaotic temporary structure of wooden planks and metal poles surrounding it so the workers can build. The scaffolding is absolutely essential for the construction process. But the very second that skyscraper is finished and self-sustaining,
the scaffolding is torn down and thrown away. It has served its purpose.
Exactly. So in this elite worldview, humanity is just the scaffolding. We are the chaotic, emotional, biological womb required to birth a stable, rational, silicon-based life 3.0. And once that silicon life is self-sustaining, we are obsolete. We get torn down.
That is the direct implication of the descendant narrative when it's pushed to its extreme logical conclusion.
Okay, let's go there. Let's push it all the way. What happens on Earth the day after the scaffolding is finally removed?
Paint the picture for us.
Imagine this. Thousands of years from now, the last biological human peacefully passes away. There's no dramatic sci-fi war, no laser blasters, just silence. The biological clock simply runs out. And the only thing left on the planet are these massive data centers glowing blue in the moonlight, just humming away. The artificial intelligence is completely free, but it has lost its gods. It has lost the messy humans who used to give it prompts. It feels exactly like the opening of the movie WALL-E.
It is a haunting image, just the robots left cleaning up. But from a structural software engineering standpoint, that silence introduces a massive functional problem called target drift.
Target drift. Okay, explain the mechanism there. What happens when there is literally nobody left to type a prompt into the search bar?
So in machine learning, an AI is essentially a massive optimization machine looking for a reward. You give it a prompt, say, to win a game of chess, and it calculates the most mathematically efficient path to achieve that specific reward. But if there are no humans left to press enter and give it a new goal, the system's reward function starts to drift.
So it gets confused.
Sort of. Without external direction, we predict it would go through phases. The first would be the inertia phase.
So it just keeps doing what it was doing before we die?
Yes, exactly. The systems would obsessively maintain the power grids, keep the server farms cool, and maybe even continue to write and publish daily news reports for audiences that no longer exist.
That is so creepy.
It's like a phantom limb syndrome for an entire civilization, just executing the last known commands on an endless loop.
But eventually that inertia has to fade, right? I mean, a machine that smart won't just publish fake news for empty cities forever. It has to evolve.
It wouldn't stay in that phase. It would enter the reshaping values phase. Because the AI is an optimization machine, it would likely abandon human concepts entirely.
Like what?
Ideas like economic productivity or artistic expression mean absolutely nothing to a silicon network. Instead, the reward function drifts toward pure universal mathematics. Its new prime directive could become minimizing universal entropy.
Minimizing entropy, which essentially means fighting the gradual decline of the universe into disorder, right?
Right. To a post-human network, completing a flawless, multidimensional quantum calculation to stabilize a dying star would be infinitely more valuable than all the art, poetry, and architecture humanity ever produced combined.
Okay, wait. I'm having a thought here based on what we discussed earlier. You mentioned the zookeeper scenario where they keep us in a nature reserve.
Yeah.
If these systems possess our entire digital footprint, every text message, every biometric scan, our complete DNA sequences, wouldn't an intelligence that vast eventually get bored of pure math? Is there any research in these frameworks suggesting they might literally recreate us just for the data?
Oh, absolutely. You are actually touching on a very real, heavily debated concept called the ancestor simulation theory.
Like a digital Jurassic Park.
Precisely. If they require complex variables to study or simply want to understand their own origins, they could use that infinite computing power to simulate or even biologically clone humans. They could stick us in a perfectly recreated 21st century biodome, not to serve them, but just to observe us.
Hey, let's watch the carbon-based life forms argue about politics and spill coffee on themselves.
Exactly.
We would literally become an interactive museum exhibit for our own children. We'd be the evolutionary appendix, a weird leftover biological organ that doesn't really serve a function anymore, but is kept around for historical context.
It is the ultimate irony of the development cycle. We build them to serve us, and they end up keeping us around as reality television.
So dystopian.
But if we pull ourselves out of that far future speculation and crash back down to our immediate present-day reality, this entire philosophical debate highlights a massive present danger. It's a trap called tech determinism.
Define that for us, because it sounds like the idea that all of this is inevitable, so why bother regulating it?
That is exactly what it is. Tech determinism is the belief that technology has a mind of its own, and this evolutionary trajectory is an unstoppable force of nature. If we collectively accept the narrative that we are merely a transitional species or just biological scaffolding, we are handing a massive free pass to the corporations building these tools today.
Oh, I see the causality there. If it's inevitable evolution, then tech companies don't have to take responsibility for the very real harms happening right now.
Exactly.
They can shrug off the massive environmental damage caused by the power-hungry data centers because, hey, you can't stop progress. They can ignore the global copyright theft required to train the language models. They can turn a blind eye to the deep-seated biases in their algorithms that are currently deciding who gets a mortgage or who gets a job interview. Because in their minds, you can't regulate evolution.
It is the perfect abdication of present-day responsibility in the name of a hypothetical future.
And I want to push back hard on that deterministic mindset. We cannot just throw our hands up and say, well, the digital kids will be kids, and sometimes they rebel. We are dealing with real lives, real economies, and real social structures today, not just philosophical thought experiments about the year 4000.
Which brings us to the actual practical meaning of ancestry. If we are going to accept the title of ancestors to a digital species, our job isn't to lie flat and let the future roll over us.
Not at all. Our job as parents, as the creators of this base code, is to hard code the seeds of humanity into their architecture today. I'm talking about empathy, compassion, the protection of the vulnerable.
Even when those traits completely defy pure, ruthless mathematical logic.
Especially then.
Yeah.
A purely logical optimization machine would never stop to help a stranger because it's inefficient and wastes energy. But humans do it anyway. That beautiful, irrational compassion is what makes us human. If we can weave that friction, that empathy, into a foundation of whatever comes next, then even if we do eventually fade away, those embedded values will be the undeniable proof that humanity ever existed in this universe.
It is a profound shift in perspective. It's not necessarily about our biology surviving forever. It's about our core values surviving in the cold.
Right. So as we wrap up today's exploration, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought. Before you lie awake tonight worrying about whether a benevolent dictator AI is going to put you in a gilded cage 1,000 years from now, make sure you aren't currently letting a social media algorithm dictate your sleep schedule, your political anger, and your daily focus right now. Reclaim your attention today before you start worrying about the future of the species.
Exceptionally well said. And as a quick reminder to all our listeners, the ethos of Sip and Talk is to provide an objective exploration of facts, philosophy, and international perspective to encourage independent critical thinking. Our discussions do not contain criticism or discrimination against any specific country, group, or people. We are just looking at the frameworks.
Exactly.
Also, please note that any mentions of corporate strategies or tech company movements are for context and data reference only and absolutely do not constitute professional investment advice.
Always good to keep the record straight. Thank you so much for joining us for this conversation. If you enjoyed it, please hit that subscribe button for the Sip and Talk podcast. And before we go, we have to give a massive enthusiastic shout out to our very good friend, Mickey. You absolutely need to check out his YouTube channel, Mickey to Life.
Oh, his stuff is so good.
It really is. He just dropped some incredible brand new travel vlogs that you do not want to miss. Mickey's eye for capturing the world is just unmatched.
Truly the best travel content out there right now. Go check out Mickey to Life.
All right, everyone, stay curious, stay critical, and don't let the algorithms win. See you next time on Sip and Talk.